Firegirl Chapter 15. My uncle's coming in 4 days, Jeff said on the bus first thing Tuesday morning. He called last night. The long weekend had gone by so slowly. Jeff was out of the picture, spending the 3 days with his father in the city. On Sunday, Mom and Dad and I drove up forever on a bunch of long, windy roads to a little town named Kent, where we bought 2 small pumpkins and 3 big ones for Halloween. Too many, my mom said, but that's okay. And I drank way too much cider. Most of Monday, I was in and out of the bathroom, but I felt better by the time the school bus came the next morning. Through it all, through the drive and the cider and the bathroom, I had spent pretty much every minute thinking about the picture and Jessica's face and what her father told me and how small her mother seemed, all pulled inside of herself, and how Jessica said she hated her. Hated her, I guessed, because she left the car running and didn't save her. Or couldn't save her, I don't know. The whole thing about the dead sister, the questions from the Friday before, all of it seemed pointless now. I mean, it was so completely meaningless. I wasn't even going to try to put into words what I now knew was true about her. The other kids didn't matter now with their stupid stories. It wasn't anyone's business anyhow. Watch. I won't say a word. They'll all know I went to her house, but I won't say a word. Cobra time! Or should I tell them? And what should I tell them exactly? Tom, said Jeff from the seat next to me. The bus was pulling into the school parking lot already. I turned. What? Cobra. Saturday. I almost didn't hear him. That hour at Jessica's house, listening to her father. Something's different now. I'm different now. I know more than anybody about how it happened. About the sister thing. There was no sister. I know about what she went through and still has to go through. I shivered as we got off the bus and stepped down to the sidewalk in front of the school. She had heard her father and me talking about her. She knew that I knew what nobody else knew. Was that bad? I wasn't even sure. Also, what I kept seeing in my mind was her car in front of the dance place. First, I imagined that it was a minivan. When I remembered that they actually had a minivan, I decided it had to be a regular car, a Toyota or a Taurus or something like that. First new, then old, forest green, then maroon, then black. The more I tried to think of something else, the more I saw the car all covered in flames, and the more I saw Jessica's face. Each time a wave of sickness came over me. But Jeff kept saying stuff, at least 5 more times before first period, on the playground, in the lavatory, in the hall. Saturday, he said, was going to be the day, our day. My uncle's coming. Noon. Noon is gonna be Cobra time. You and me, Cobra man. Rich wanted to come over, but I told him no. Even Eric asked, but I didn't want him peeing in the car. All morning he went at it, not saying a word about my lie of having to help my mom at church, but whispering, even in religion class, this little chant. Cobra, Cobra. He tapped his pencil to get my attention, then showed me where he'd drawn a picture of the car and in the margin of his notebook, Cobra. Each time Jeff told me, I just said, yeah, great. On Wednesday, he did the same thing, and I kept on trying not to show any emotion about it. I couldn't believe, didn't want to believe it was really going to happen, because I didn't want to get suckered into waiting for the car to come. I wasn't sure that it even meant anything to me anymore. Jessica wasn't in school. More tests and treatments, I guess. It was amazing how school sank right into being like before she had ever come. I didn't hear anybody talking about all the crazy sister ideas of last week. School was just school again. By Thursday morning, when Jeff was still at it with his Cobra, Cobra man, oh yeah, a thought was beginning to grow inside me, as if it was swimming up from somewhere deep down. And the thought was that maybe I deserved all this. After all, I had done the tough thing, hadn't I? I'd done more than anyone else had, right? I'd actually gone to her house. I knew about Jessica. I'd been in her room, talked to her. I even talked to her father. Who else had done that? I heard the truth about the accident. I knew what happened. I had cried, too. It had been so strange going to Jessica's house, but I did it. No one else did it. I did. We'll drive by Courtney's house at noon, Jeff said, grinning as if it were his idea. I told her you wanted to. What? I finally said, turning to him. You told her? She'll be waiting, Jeff said with a nod. Then he headed into first period, leaving me stuffing books into my locker. Jessica still wasn't there. Maybe she wasn't going to be in all day again. So, okay, I thought, okay, it's cool that Jeff doesn't care that I skipped going to his house and went to see her instead. So maybe we will drive by Courtney's house. She'll think I'm cool. Maybe she'll even go for a ride with us. It's possible. There were only 2 seats, but we can squeeze. That would be cool. And when I nominate her for the election next Monday, she'll thank me. We're back to that now, the Courtney thing. It was me and Courtney after all. How long had it been since I even thought of that? With all the craziness going on, I had almost forgotten to think about it. The adventures, the earthquakes, volcanoes, mountains, our pockets full of money and stuff, tearing off in the car. That's what everything was all about. That was the main thing, Tom and Courtney. A warm feeling came over me, like something familiar was happening. I thought of roaring away in the Cobra from Courtney's house, of rolling uphill to a lost temple of terror, of leaping from a crashing plane, holding hands. No, Jessica. Courtney. When I slammed my locker door, the sound echoed down the hall, and I thought about all of it. I crossed the hall to the water fountain and took a long drink, letting my mouth fill with cold water. I closed my eyes. Yes, the car and Courtney and me. Saturday, bright and early. No, noon. Noon was Cobra time, right? I smiled. I breathed in slowly, swallowing the water in small gulps. Things were simpler already. Thank you, Tom. I almost spit the water out on my shoes. Thank you? I lifted my head from the fountain and turned to face the light shining in the hall from the doors at the end. Only it was Courtney. Only it wasn't Courtney. It was Jessica's bulky shape silhouetted against the light coming from behind her. Suddenly, I don't know, my heart sank. It was her again. Farther back beyond the doors stood her father, looking so tiny as he leaned in to watch her go. Thank you, she said again. I stood all the way up. Okay, but for what? For the homework. I never thanked you for bringing it over. I ended up taking the math quiz today because I've been out all week. I wiped my lips on my shirt cuff. She seemed tired. Oh, sure, no problem. I've had stuff to do every day at the hospital. I've been pretty out of it, she paused. You look happy. What? You're smiling really big. Oh, yeah, well, I was happy. I felt good. I had brought her the homework. I did that. Now it was my turn. The Cobra was coming. I would take my ride in it. That was the thing I had been waiting for. Nothing could mess that up for me now. Jeff had promised me. I decided I was going to be big about it. You know what? I said, trying really hard to be casual. Are you going to be around tomorrow at noon? I think I'll be in French class. Where will you be? I thought for a second. Not tomorrow, Saturday. Will you be around? I mean at your house? Unless I'm at the beach, she said. Huh? It's a joke. What? What's with all the bad jokes? Actually, she went on, I was going to ask if you wanted to go to New Haven with me and my dad on Saturday. I have to see a doctor, but you could, I don't know, hang out on the green or something with him for a little bit. Then we can have lunch. There's a place we go where they know us. Saturday, I said, confused to hear her talk about the day of the Cobra. Around 10, just for a couple of hours and then back. She made a little shrug with her shoulders that reminded me of the girl in the photograph, of her, the way she used to be. I can't, I said. I can't. I'm waiting to ride in a Cobra. I was going to say that if you were around, you could check it out. It's so cool. A Cobra? She just stood there. I hadn't planned for this. A Cobra? Who doesn't know what a Cobra is? That's a sports car, I said. There aren't a lot of them. It's really fast. Jeff's uncle has one, and he's going to drive by and take me for a ride. If you're back from your doctor, you can see us cruising around. I'll ask him to drive by your house. She looked at me. What was in her eyes just then? Suddenly, I felt just as stupid as when I told her about the superhero thing. What was I doing? And what was she? Bored? Disappointed? Never mind. I knew what it was. She didn't like Jeff. That was it. She hated him because he wouldn't hold her hand. And of course, she hated cars. I don't know why, but I kept going. There really aren't a lot of Cobras around, I said for the second time, but it's definitely the coolest thing on the road. More looking, those heavy eyelids. What is she waiting for? I've done the tough thing already. Wasn't I even talking with her now? Do I have to go to the hospital with her? Do I have to keep doing more? Do I have to feel bad about riding in a car and thinking about Courtney? Have fun, she said, turning to go into the classroom. Does everything have to be about being burned?